Welcome to the Peanut Gallery in our second edition. Tonight's guest is going to be Mitch Waters. Mitch, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris.
Mr. Waters graduated from Jay County High School, went to Ancilla College, Manchester College, played basketball and baseball, and played some overseas baseball, and is now the head girls basketball coach at Blackford High School. Mitch, if I've left any gaps there, go ahead and fill them in.
I think you've pretty much taken care of it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Mitch, let's jump right back into basketball season. One win a year ago, 10 wins this year, probably the biggest turnaround in the state of Indiana, if not the biggest, definitely one of them. Talk a little bit about how that happened.
Like I said before, we had an incredible freshman class in general. They finished 19-1 as eighth graders. They came in with definitely a different attitude and persona. And when you've had a team that's kind of used to losing, and that's not taking anything away from our girls, it's just kind of the way it's been the last few years. It was kind of nice to have some girls that were used to winning and wanted to win because they really pushed the other girls even more than before. And both freshmen that we had starting this year, they were all conference, and so that doesn't hurt either. That was Olivia Lease and Olivia Waters. And they pretty much led our team in pretty much every respected category, whether it's points, rebounds, steals, blocks, assists. It was pretty incredible what they were able to do as freshmen. So I think that was part of the biggest turnaround that we had, and just everybody else continuing to buy in what we were trying to do.
Biggest win of the year, Oak Hill?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We had some big wins, but, yeah, Oak Hill.
Yeah. What did game planning – talk a little bit about your game planning for them. Obviously a tremendous program, and, you expected that maybe to be a springboard towards the end of the season, and it didn't quite work out that way.
Yeah, I mean, the game plan for them, we kind of went unorthodox, which I think really kind of caught them off guard early especially. We actually put Grace Simmons on their powerhouse post player, which was Taylor Westgate. And Grace did an amazing job. And we just kind of rotated between Grace and Erin Cagle, and they did a wonderful job just kind of containing her. Anytime that she got the ball, they were pestering her all over. She'd turn and do some moves, and then Olivia Waters, it just seems like she had so many timely blocks that game. And so when they weren't able to get her going, we knew that they really didn't have any other scoring presence, and we were able to just kind of key on her all game and force the others to beat us, and luckily it worked out for us.
That was towards the end of the season, maybe half a dozen games before the end of the year. Yeah. Talk about what your hopes were what that win would do and maybe what happened.
Well, at that point, we were undefeated in the CIC. We won against Oak Hill, which was for the bell, which we didn't even know what that was. So, moving forward, we knew we had Mississinewa, which was a good team. We knew we had Frankton, which obviously went to state finals, and we knew we had Eastbrook left. So we felt pretty confident that we were going to have a chance to push for the CIC championship, but we didn't know how we'd, pan out. So after that game, I think there was – such a high on that win because we hadn't beat them. I don't know if we'd ever actually beat them. So it was such a high for us. I think that we kind of lost a little bit of focus, and then we lost a couple close games. Frankton was a close game. The Mississinewa game was a close game on the road, and then Eastbrook was just kind of a letdown for us. But I think one of the other overall deciding factors was we played Union City the next following game, and that was senior night. And I don't have a particular rule about starting seniors. And unfortunately, I think my seniors expected to start and probably play a lot more than they did. And when I go into the game, I'm trying to win every game possible. And I'm putting whoever's on the floor is basically the ones I feel like deserve to be on the floor. And I think that might have rubbed our seniors a little bit wrong, unfortunately. And I think it also kind of put a little detriment on the season. And, I take responsibility for that. Looking back at it, it was kind of a rock and hard spot with what I was going to do there. We were 10-6, and we're trying to push for, the first winning season we've had in a long time. So I was just trying to win every game that we possibly could. And unfortunately, that might have actually backfired on me.
The end of the season, then, you're naming off schools that, three pretty good schools in the CIC. And Eastbrook, I know, has got quite a bit coming back. Union City was one of the top teams around here and ranked quite a bit this year. And also, I covered your game at Adams Central, and they were a very good team as well. So I mean, in one way, and then throw Oak Hill in there. So your last 6 games might have been the meat of your schedule going into sectional. Do you think that that's looking back and then looking forward also, do you think that's a good thing to have going into sectional because you're playing the best teams and you may be playing your best as well? Or do you think maybe that ought to be spread out a little bit more?
Well, I mean, we've played other good teams. Don't kid yourself, I guess. Yorktown,
Right.
County.
Right.
We definitely played our fair share. Blue River was a big upset early in the season. But yeah, I think it's all depending on how, no matter what your schedule says at the end of the year, it's how you're playing at the end of the year. You can play cupcakes and get by with things and then go into sectional and think that you're better than what you are, or you can play better teams. And, like I said, we battled well with all those teams, Mississinawa, Eastbrook, any of those teams, we battled really well. So going into sectional, I still had confidence, even though we were on I think it was a 6-game skid, unfortunately. But we had a lot of confidence going in, and I thought we played really well the first half. And Taylor just came out and lit a fire in the third quarter in sectional and just kind of took over from there. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Yeah, I wouldn't mind maybe balancing the schedule a little bit more, but that's hard, and that's when they're CIC teams, you got to do the best you can there, and you just pick up the teams that will actually play. So.
Right, and you really never know what those teams will do. 3 years from now, they may be the worst teams on your schedule.
Right.
So like you said, then you play a bunch of cupcakes going in, and it doesn't always even out there. You also had to put a lot of work in off-season wise leading up to your season to make that kind of a turnaround as well. Talk a little bit about that, and then talk about June or July 1st, I think, is when you're going to be allowed to get back together with them. Talk about what your plans are for this summer.
Yeah, I mean, last year we really emphasized we did a D1 camp with Coach Jerry Hoover, actually. And D1 is a very good opportunity to kind of see what you have coming in and not have a lot of expectations and just kind of see how they work together and see how they gel and see kind of where you stack up. And we kind of knew going into it, the first D1 camp, we went to 2, which is a unique opportunity. And the first one we struggled. And it was kind of like we were missing some pieces, just kind of giving everybody opportunities. The second one we came in, I felt like everybody was really there that was going to contribute. And then I also kind of mixed it up and allowed some freshmen to actually play some more varsity on that. And right away, as soon as we added the freshmen to the lineup, I felt like, okay, we're a different team with those girls in it. So that helped moving forward into the season. I've kind of known where we were at. And we got to play, I think I added it up, we were almost 30 games last year in the off season in the summer. And so, these freshmen, even though they're freshmen, they got 30 games under their belt. So they're playing a lot of good competition. So that kind of helps change the curve there. And this year we're going to do a lot of the same thing. July 1st is when we open up. We plan on going to D1 again. That should be the 13th through the 15th, as long as, school board passes it and everything's a go there. You never know what COVID's going to do. So hopefully everything checks out there. But if it does, we'll go the 13th through the 15th to D1 for sure. We'll look for some other shootouts if they're available. And we'll just do, kind of our limited contact stuff and just drill the girls, work on getting a lot of shots up. I think that's really important, and continue to focus on, shots and dribbling.
Is it going to be different in the fact that the IHSAA has always left June open, moratorium week to start July, and then you probably actually started cutting back as volleyball got closer? Do you think it's going to be a rush by all the teams to get to these athletes come July 1st?
I think most are. I'm going to try the best of my ability to allow these girls to pick and choose. Obviously, it's obviously their choice, but I'm not going to put any pressure on them. If they've got volleyball commitments, soccer commitments, I'm not going to worry about it. I hope to see everybody. D1 is the important thing, 13th through the 15th. If we get okayed, I really want to see everybody go there because that gives me the best look at a lot of games and a lot of different situations. That's going to help them coming into the season for sure. So I hope for that. Other than that, if they choose to the soccer and the volleyball and whatever else they might have, I get it. They might have vacations planned in July, and that's okay too. It's just one of those things. It's a weird year. We've talked to the girls kind of throughout this COVID thing. We've tried to keep them in shape. We've tried to continue to tell them, dribble, get some shots up on your own, do what you can. I think a lot of the girls have been. Some of them haven't. Luckily for me, I think I have 4 or 5 girls that play on my team that are playing AAU travel ball. So that's going to help get them some repetitions that they need anyway. And then there's a lot of incoming freshmen. I think I have 3 or 4 of those that are playing travel ball as well. So that's going to help a lot.
I was going to say your incoming 8th grade lost a couple games only.
Right. Yeah, they're a very good team. They lost to Eastbrook both games, and
Okay.
Eastbrook kind of loaded up. They got the Miss Cinewell girls. So, they're a very good team, and we know that going into it. But that team's another – they're very much like my freshman team from last year. They're very scrappy. They can shoot it. They can handle it. They like, pressure ball defense. So I'm excited to get those girls.
Now let's go to the other side of the coin. You were going to be coaching baseball this year. Talk a little bit about, you got to finish your season. Boys basketball wins sectional and boom, done. But baseball didn't even get the opportunity to take the field once. So talk a little bit about, how do you think that affected the kids? And, you personally as well, you got kind of cut off from everybody as well.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate all the way around, of course. I know that those kids, they were a special group. You could see that right away. Even though I hadn't been around them, you could tell that they were different, and you can kind of see that with different groups. And I really think we all had high expectations, high hopes for them. And I think they could have done very well, if not win a sectional, maybe even a regional. And who knows what can happen after that. But, yeah, I was really enjoying it. It's been a while since I kind of had an assistant job, and I can sit back and watch somebody else work and offer my help as much as I can, but I don't have to be the one dictating what's going on. So it's kind of that. It's also nice not having to play bad cop all the time. So, some guys can look at you and not have to be – you're not always the bad person. So it was good to have that role. And, baseball, I was a much better baseball player than a basketball player. So I don't know if I can offer more on the baseball field than I do at basketball, because I do love basketball and I felt like I know it. But baseball is definitely a love of mine, and I was a lot more successful with. So
I'm going to talk to Tony later on. I know he's on vacation right now, but from everything I heard, this team was loaded and ready for bear this year.
Yeah, I agree. And your heart goes out to all those seniors that probably were going to have a sectional title or whatever, and so on. And I think for the most part, they handled it very well. Probably better than what I would have handled it. Just because I know how important my senior season was. And Tony said the same thing in terms of, if it wasn't for a senior season, we don't know if we'd have offers to play in college. So It was kind of one of those things that, you just feel bad for those kids not having that opportunity. And which I know most are going through the same, but it's gut-wrenching,
Well, making me feel old, you and I discussed the last time, as we're in Groundhog 2 here, that you were a senior, I believe, in 2002 when it was my first year as head coach at Blackford. So we played against you, except I didn't know who you were at the time. So
right.
Lee Selvey had been around a long time, and I think he's still coaching, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about your time at Jay County. What was it like? You played for a coach that's been there for a long time now.
Yeah, Coach Selvey's a legendary coach. We all know that. I love playing for him. I had a very good career. I got to start as a sophomore, which doesn't happen typically a lot in Jay County, just being a bigger school. I started sophomore year. To be honest with you, I had an awful year. I batted like 220, I think, or 240. I don't remember. It was so awful. I tried to forget. And I played third base, and it was just a learning curve. And, some nerves got to me. I don't think that I wasn't ready. It just the nerves and the mental game I wasn't ready for. Then I turned around and I actually played I played basketball my sophomore year. I decided to quit my senior year and focus on baseball. And that obviously helped because I turned it around. I batted .422 my junior year, and then I batted .455 my senior year, and honorable mention All-State and third base. And I had a solid year, so it worked out. But, I had a great time at Jay County, and now I have a great time competing against those guys.
Yeah, and I don't know if I knew your batting average then, but if I did, we probably pitched around you. I don't know. I think that was a 2-1 game, and the rain came. So it was always fun playing against Lee and a lot of these teams around here. I got to know Brian Dudley real well at Wapahani, and actually we scheduled Northfield, so we were playing our invitational was something else. We had Tony come in with Northfield. We had Dudley come in from Wapahani, and I don't remember who the fourth team was because those two teams probably consumed my time getting ready. So, and we probably I know when you host invitationals, you always say, well, this is who we drew. Well, we all know reality is I say, this is who I want to play.
Right.
Well, actually, we wanted to play Tony the one year, and just because, you know, it was Tony and they'd won the state the year before, and I tried to always tell my teams, if you want to be those teams, you've got to beat those teams. So it was always fun seeing the guys. So this COVID, everything has, you know, just changed the world completely. Now we have other things going on as well. How hungry do you think the country is just to see some competitive sports again? You know, the NBA is talking about coming back in July now. The NFL sounds like they're on track for normal. NHL's coming back, although it sounds like they're going to be in Orlando finishing out their season. And everybody's waiting on Major League Baseball to do something. Right. So how starved do you think the U.S. is for that?
Oh, they definitely are. I think the sports that you see that are actually doing things, NASCAR, UFC, these sports that are actually able to broadcast and do stuff right now, their ratings are kind of through the roof for them. So you can just see that people just they beg for that. You know, they like to tune in. It's kind of a release of reality, and they like to cheer for something. The match with Tiger and Tom Brady and Phil and Peyton, that was another big success. And that's just an exhibition, but it felt like a lot more at the time. And so, yeah, I think everybody's ready to get sports back. And no matter what kind of sports it is, you know, people are ready.
What did you think of the match? I enjoyed Peyton's commentary, but I felt like he would be a great broadcaster because he's very entertaining. He missed his calling with SNL, I think. Yeah. And then, you know, it's already coming out that they'd love to get Steph Curry and Michael Jordan out there with those guys. So how intrigued were you by that?
By the new or just the match?
By the match itself and what could be down the road.
Yeah. No, I was very intrigued. I felt like that match was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, obviously it coming down to the final few holes and only a one hole difference there. I thought that, you know, is what it needed to be entertaining. If Steph Curry and Michael Jordan go at it, you know, you've got one of the best players in the NBA now and probably the best player ever to play in the NBA going against each other, and they're both great golfers. So I'd love to see those guys go at it because I think they would give a little bit more to add than what Peyton and Tom brought to the table. Although, you know, Tom chipping in from 150 out and making a big putt, and Peyton actually was close to the pin there in that par 3 at the end. So those guys held their own, but I think I think Michael and Steph would probably do a little bit better.
Yeah. Phil Mickelson intrigued me, just his thought process, the way he was trying to help Brady and, you know, aim here and do this. And it's kind of like, yeah, Phil, you can probably do that, but I'm used to throwing a pigskin. So what did you think about it? What did you take from Phil's just trying to pick his brain would just be unbelievable, I think.
Oh, exactly. And I think Tom's probably, like what you said, he's probably looking at him thinking, I mean, you can do that, but what's that do for me? You know, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he was overwhelmed with some of the stuff that Phil was trying to tell him and teach him, but I think some of the stuff was obviously helping him. And anytime you can learn from somebody with that stature, you definitely want to pick their brain as much as you can. It's kind of like me picking Jerry Hoover's brain. As much as I can talk to the guy, I'm doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what about The Last Dance? I assumed did you watch that? What did you think of The Last Dance? What were some of your thoughts?
A lot of it, I think that, you know, you kind of understood and already kind of thought, you know, when you think of Michael Jordan, his leadership style, and you got this false sense of he's just this nice guy because the way he was in the media. So I do think that, you know, this kind of portrayed him as a little bit more of a jerk at times, especially during practices and stuff, which being a Michael Jordan fan is hard to take at times. But, you know, I think he kind of talked about it and he said, you know, winning has a price to pay. And if you're not willing to pay that price, then you can just go, you know. So he wanted to do whatever he had to do to win. And that was pretty apparent no matter what he does. But so, yeah, I thought it was a great series. I had fun watching it.
I think that, you know, he as a leader and what he expected out of people could be misperceived by some people, especially because you don't see that, or at least you don't hear about that now. And then, there's always the LeBron and Michael comparisons. And I've listened to enough radio shows now that, LeBron's in a different era, not only how the game is played, there isn't the centers like Patrick Ewing and Rick Smits and Kareem. And, when Michael played, it wasn't necessarily the emphasis wasn't on the three-pointer as much. It was get to the rim. But also social media-wise, LeBron's in an age where, Kevin Durant gets butt hurt all the time by, everything, stay off of that stuff where Michael never had to deal with that. So how do you think those things it's just two different eras?
Right, exactly. And that's how I look at it now. You always talk about the GOAT, of course, and that always gets brought up right now with LeBron and Michael and Kobe and numerous guys, of course, and you're always going to have that. And I like to look at it by eras because I think it's easier to dictate who was the best per era. And, I think you can kind of go down the line and really see who was the best of each, like the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s. And, comparing Michael and LeBron isn't fair because they're totally two different eras, two different players, two different personalities. But what I will say, I think both of them could be very successful and probably still be the superstars that they are in other eras. Just because the skills that they possess, the athleticism, and just everything about them, I really do believe that they would be stars no matter what era they played. And you can't say that for all the stars. There's certain guys that you look at them and you're like, he wouldn't be the same in this era or that era. So,
right. I think a lot of that, and LeBron gets criticized, him and Harden, because of the major flops. It's like, as big as you are, if that knocked you down, And I even heard, I don't remember who Cowherd was speaking to one day, but they were talking about LeBron doesn't go down on the block and post people up. That's just not his game. Where Michael, and I've even heard more Magic Johnson, that Magic could play center, he'd play power forward, he'd play wherever he needed to play. And I think Michael could do that. I think Pippen could do that. A lot of them could do that. Where now they're more of the, it used to be power forward, blah blah blah. Now it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thing.
Right.
But yeah, I think it would be interesting to see, because like I get to see James Harden flopping against the bad boys, and boy, next time down court, he probably would have been laying on the floor for another reason.
Oh, for sure.
Where now, that jump back, leg kick, fall down thing, I don't think it would have worked back then.
Right. But I do think you're a product of your environment, because James Harden didn't come into the league doing that. Neither did LeBron. They realized real quick that they could get by with it, and so they started taking advantage of it, in my opinion. But it doesn't make it right. That's the part of their game that I don't like. And if they'd stop doing it, I think they get more respect from everybody. But unfortunately, they do.
I think a lot more people paid attention to Reggie Miller once he started kicking that leg out too, because he didn't originally do that either.
Yeah, for sure.
You're right. They just kind of have to adjust to how the officials are going to call it. And I'm going to have a couple officials on down the road. Mike Fuqua and Brian Elliott are going to come on, and we're going to talk about some things. Do you ever talk to your team about how to handle officials? And I'll try to give an example. When I coached baseball and softball, it was like, listen, every umpire is going to have a different zone. Mm-hmm. We've got to figure out what that is quickly, and we have to adjust because they're not going to.
Right.
It's kind of like Billy Crawford in the NBA. You better know you can't open your mouth to him. So exactly. Do you ever talk to your team about, hey, let's focus on the game and not get caught?
Yeah, I mean, we have the exact same philosophy as what you said there. I mean, it's focused on what we can do and what we can control, and referees are not one of those. And I always tell my team, let me deal with them. And I'm not a guy – I've actually refereed plenty, so I'm not a guy that's going to go out there and chew them up and down the floor, because I understand even if you wanted to get the call right, sometimes you miss them. And so now once in a while, if it's getting a little lopsided, I might say something like, hey, you watch for this and help us out, and the classical, hey, fouls are 8-1, you might give them something like that. But other than that, I'm not going to say a whole lot, because you see these guys, game in, game out a lot of times, and there's no reason to get on their bad side, because you're probably going to get them for more games than what you probably like anyway. So I just try to go with the flow. And being a young coach, I think you got to kind of earn the respect from the referees. I felt like my first year we didn't get anything. I felt like last year we got a little bit more. So hopefully moving forward, I'll be able to earn that respect.
Well, I know I appreciate that. And when I broadcast some of your games, I appreciated the fact that you put your focus on your team, because being an official, I over the years I've seen a lot of coaches that get caught up in that, and all that does is it gives the crowd the okay to go start going crazy. Then it gives your kids the okay to take their focus off the game and start putting it on there. And I think it can be a big distraction. So I appreciate the fact that, you might comment once in a while, because I was taught by J.D. Collins to always say, I understand, coach, I understand. And, and then you just keep on doing your job. But I appreciate the fact you don't get caught up in that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's something I learned not to do a long time ago. So, and I can thank my dad for that one.
Yeah, well, I followed my dad around when he officiated, and there was many schools that when you're younger, I guess I just wasn't ready for how they would yell at him. And it's like, hey, that's my dad,
Yeah.
And, of course, the people by you don't care if that's your dad or not, and you're making 50% of the people mad no matter what you do. So, well, I appreciate your time tonight, and especially coming back on for a second take here. It hasn't been a smooth ride, but we have got it done, and I'm very appreciative of you coming on. And I've invited you back, and obviously we'll stay in touch with you. Some of the guests that we bring on, maybe when I have Brian Fuqua on, and there's some other coaches I've invited that have you on and be a co-host with me, and just really appreciate you and appreciate what you've done with your program. And I was glad to hear you were going to be involved with baseball. And I actually played when Tony and I played together, and he tried to get me to come to Taylor with him when we were going to college. And so I was glad to hear he was gaining you as a staff member. So I appreciate it again.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep. And so this is the end of our second edition. We got several more coming up here in the next few days. And we will close things out, and this is the Peanut Gallery signing off.
Thank you, Chris.